Some younger community members see greater value in expanded citizenship rights and compensation than in physical return to islands they've never known. The most fundamental question remains whether meaningful return is compatible with continued military operations. The exclusion of Diego Garcia from resettlement plans reflects the Pentagon's absolute opposition to civilian presence near the base. Military planners cite security concerns, operational requirements, and the need to maintain secrecy around certain activities. These objections extend beyond Diego Garcia itself to concerns about civilian populations on other islands potentially observing military movements or communications. Frankie Bontom, a Chagossian activist living in the UK, captured the community's frustration with being excluded from decisions about their homeland. "We feel sorry, upset, and angry. They've made a deal on the back of the Chagossians, just as they did in the past." The Chagossian Voices organization similarly noted that Chagossians learned this outcome from the media and remain powerless and voiceless in determining our own future and the future of our homeland. The 2024 agreement includes provisions for the UK to provide financial support to Mauritius to enable what is described as an economic, security, and environmental partnership. However, critics note that the deal effectively closes off any possibility of reparations for the Chagossians, who lost their birthright. These financial arrangements appear structured primarily as payments to the Mauritian government rather than direct compensation to the displaced Chagossians and their descendants. Despite 5 decades of legal battles, international court rulings, and diplomatic breakthroughs, the fundamental question of return remains unanswered. The Chagossians have secured important symbolic victories: recognition of the injustice they suffered, acknowledgement of Mauritian sovereignty, and the theoretical possibility of limited return to outer islands. Yet practical implementation of these rights continues to face obstacles from military priorities, financial limitations, and political complications. The passage of time threatens to transform what began as a temporary displacement into a permanent exile. The community born in exile necessarily develops different relationships to both their ancestral homeland and their current places of residence. What was once a clear demand for restoration of rights has evolved into a more complex set of aspirations reflecting diverse experiences across generations. As the 2024 agreement moves toward implementation, the central question remains whether the Chagossians will ever experience meaningful return, or whether diplomatic arrangements will continue prioritizing strategic interests over human rights. The tension between military necessity and human dignity that began with their removal continues to define their struggle, forcing us to confront difficult questions about what values should guide international relations in the 21st century. The Chagossian experience reveals a troubling precedent in international relations where strategic interests consistently outweigh human rights. Their story raises a profound question: can military strategy ever justify sacrificing an entire community's rights? For over 50 years, the Chagossians have lived in exile while global powers debated their fate. Their homeland became a launching pad for bombing missions while they struggled with poverty and displacement. The 2024 agreement between Britain and Mauritius changes the legal status of the islands but leaves the Chagossians' future uncertain. They remain excluded from Diego Garcia, while military operations continue under new arrangements. Behind the diplomatic language and strategic calculations are real human lives. How many more communities must be displaced? How many more cultures disrupted for the sake of military advantage? We invite you to share your thoughts. Can justice for displaced peoples ever truly coexist with global